As the first light of dawn stretched over the skyline of Terra Nova's capital, the city was already bustling in preparation for the highly anticipated UHC summit. Security was tighter than ever, with additional patrols and surveillance drones sweeping the area. Captain Alara Miles, aware of the potential dangers, reviewed the security protocols with her team one last time before the summit. She knew that today was not just about diplomacy, it was about survival. The summit venue, a grand assembly hall designed to host delegates from across the galaxy, was a fortress today. Alara arrived early, flanked by her security detail. Inside, the air was thick with tension and anticipation as representatives from various human colonies and alien races gathered, their conversations a low buzz under the hum of security scanners. Meanwhile, Rexar and his crew were finalizing their plans. Disguised as a maintenance team, they had infiltrated the building during the night. Crix, with his cybernetic enhancements, had disabled key security cameras at critical points. "We go on my mark," Rexar whispered into his communicator, his eyes fixed on the live feed of Alara entering the hall. The summit began with formal greetings and introductory speeches. Alara listened politely, but her mind was elsewhere, constantly scanning the room for any sign of threat. As the initial pleasantries concluded, she took the stage to present her proposal for a defensive alliance, designed to protect and promote peace across the galaxy. "Ladies and gentlemen," Alara began, her voice echoing through the hall, "today we stand together not just as representatives of our own races, but as advocates for a balanced and just galaxy. I propose the formation of the Galactic Coalition for Peace, a multi-species alliance committed to defending each other from aggression and ensuring that no one power can dominate the rest." The audience listened intently, many nodding in agreement, aware of the changing tides in galactic politics. However, as Alara spoke, Rexar's team moved into position. Shadow, the infiltration expert, quietly unlocked the service door at the rear of the hall, signaling the rest of the team. Just as Alara was about to unveil the charter of the Alliance, the lights flickered and dimmed, plunging the hall into semi-darkness. In the confusion, Rexar and his crew launched their attack. "Now!" he hissed, as they swiftly moved toward the stage. Security personnel sprang into action, their training kicking in as they formed a protective circle around Alara. Blaster fire erupted, and the summit turned chaotic. Alara, caught in the middle, was both a target and a symbol. Amidst the chaos, Crix aimed his blaster at Alara, but a sudden move from one of her guards threw off his aim. The shot missed, hitting a structural beam instead. Debris fell, creating a smokescreen. Seizing the moment, Alara and her team retreated through a prearranged escape route, disappearing just as Rexar reached the stage. "Find her!" he roared, frustration evident in his voice. Outside the assembly hall, Alara's convoy sped away, heading to a secure UHC military facility. Her heart pounded not just from the narrow escape, but from the realization that the summit attack would have repercussions far beyond what she had imagined. Back at the now secured venue, the remaining delegates were in disarray. But in the year 2524, humanity had spread across the stars, colonizing distant worlds and interacting with a myriad array of alien species. Among these species, the Chthonians were known as the most fearsome predators in the galaxy. Towering at nearly 12 feet tall, with 6 muscular arms and impenetrable scaly hides, they dominated every planet they chose to inhabit. Yet, their empire was about to face an unprecedented challenge from what they considered a feeble and insignificant species: humans. The incident that changed the dynamic of human-alien relations occurred on Vortex 9, a bustling trade hub located at the crossroads of several interstellar trade routes. Vortex 9 was a melting pot of cultures and species, but the Chthonians ruled it with an iron fist, or rather, an iron slap. Their method of asserting dominance was primitive but effective, a powerful slap delivered to any dissenting party, a practice that subdued even the toughest of the alien races. Enter Captain Alara Miles, a human diplomat and former military officer, known for her sharp wit and undying tenacity. Alara was part of a diplomatic mission aimed at negotiating mining rights on Vortex 9. The human delegation, under her leadership, was determined to secure a fair deal, which had become increasingly difficult under the heavy-handed governance of the Chthonians. During the pivotal meeting, tensions escalated quickly. Thorgak, the Cthulhian ambassador, was notoriously short-tempered and despised humans for their relatively frail appearance and perceived cunning. As the negotiations reached a stalemate, Thorgak rose to his full height, a menacing figure that shadowed the room. "Enough of this human deceit!" Thorgak bellowed, his voice resonating through the chamber. "You are all the same, sneaky, weak, and unworthy of the Cthulhian Empire's generosity." Ilara, standing barely a third of Thorgak's height, looked up unfazed. "We seek only what is fair, Ambassador. We have no desire for deceit." Thorgak's response was swift and brutal. His middle right arm swung in a wide arc, aiming a slap at Ilara, a slap that, if connected, could shatter bones. But what happened next would be retold in countless tales across the galaxy. In a move that shocked everyone, including her own team, Ilara caught Thorgak's wrist mid-swing. The room fell silent. The sight of a human stopping a Cthulhian slap was unthinkable. With Thorgak's arm in her grasp, Ilara did the unthinkable. She reared back and delivered a slap of her own, right across the ambassador's surprised face. It was not as physically powerful as a Cthulhian slap, but it carried the weight of human determination and the shock of the audacious. The slap echoed through the chamber, and for a moment, time seemed to freeze. Thorgak staggered back, more from shock than pain, his eyes wide with disbelief. "This," Ilara said, her voice steady and clear, "is for equality and respect." The incident didn't just end the meeting. It ended the Cthulhians' unchallenged dominance. News of the slap spread like wildfire, turning Ilara into a symbol of resistance. It wasn't just a physical confrontation, but a declaration that humanity would no longer bow to tyranny. As the human delegation left the aftermath of Captain Ilara Miles' audacious slap was both immediate and far-reaching. News of the event spread through the galaxy faster than a supernova explosion, fueled by hypernet feeds and gossip that traveled on every trade ship. Across planets and space stations, in bars and boardrooms, beings of all species discussed the human who dared defy a Cthulhian with nothing but her bare hand. In the heart of the human territories, on the central planet of Terra Nova, leaders of the United Human Colonies, UHC, convened an emergency session to address the repercussions of Ilara's actions. While some feared retaliation from the mighty Cthulhian Empire, others saw a unique opportunity to renegotiate terms and alliances. Admiral Lucas Grant, head of the UHC Security Council, addressed the assembly with a grave tone. "Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Miles's actions, while heroic, have thrust us onto a precarious stage. We must now decide our path forward with both caution and conviction." Meanwhile, on Krath, the homeworld of the Cthulhians, the slap had a very different impact. Emperor Gralak convened his own council, filled with outrage and disbelief. "A human," he growled, "dares to strike an ambassador of our empire? This is an affront that cannot go unanswered. But let us be cunning as they are. We must use this slap to our advantage." Back on Vortex 9, Ilara became something of a folk hero. Images of her confrontation with Thorgak adorned everything from digital banners to t-shirts. Her actions sparked a broader movement among other species, who began to see the potential for standing up to the Cthulhian rule. As Ilara's ship, the UHS Resolve, made its way back to Terra Nova, she and her crew were unaware of the growing storm. Instead, they were dealing with their own internal conflicts. Lieutenant James Morrico, Ilara's second-in-command, was particularly conflicted. "Ilara, what you did was incredible, but aren't you worried about what comes next?" Ilara sat in the Resolve's dimly lit mess hall, a steaming cup of coffee in her hands. "Jim, I know what I did will have consequences, but change always does. We needed to shake the status quo. We've been under the thumb of the Cthulhians for too long." However, not everyone was pleased with the newfound hero. Within the darker corners of the galaxy, bounty hunters and mercenaries saw a lucrative opportunity. A shadowy figure known only as Rexar, with ties to the Cthulhian underworld, began gathering a crew. "The human has made herself a target," he hissed over a clandestine comlink, "and we will be the ones to collect." As political leaders debated and secret plans were drawn, scientists and scholars tried to understand the broader implications of Ilara's slap. Dr. Solara Vane, a prominent sociologist, published a paper on the potential for a shift in galactic power dynamics. "This event is not just about a human and a Chthonian," she wrote. "It's about the assertion of dignity." As the UHS Resolve touched down on Terra Nova, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation and uncertainty. Captain Ilara Miles, now a figure of galactic controversy and admiration, stepped off the ship to a crowd far larger than any welcoming party for a returning diplomat might typically expect. Among the throng were reporters, activists, politicians, and ordinary citizens, all eager to catch a glimpse of the woman who had dared challenge a Chthonian in such a bold manner. The greeting Ilara received was mixed. A cacophony of cheers mingled with murmurs of concern. Some held banners that read, "Ilara Miles, Defender of Humanity," while others whispered about the recklessness of provoking a powerful empire. Despite the polarized reception, Ilara maintained her composure as she was ushered quickly into a waiting vehicle bound for the UHC headquarters. Inside the fortified complex, the Council of Leaders convened an urgent meeting. Ilara, still in her travel-worn uniform, stood before the council to recount the events on Vortex 9 in detail. After her report, a heated debate erupted among the council members. Captain Miles' actions, while brave, could provoke a war we are ill-prepared to fight, argued Councillor Jen, a veteran politician known for her cautious stance. Admiral Grant, however, saw things differently. "We might never get another chance to renegotiate our standing with the Chthonians. This incident has already sparked a dialogue among other species. We must lead, not cower." As the debate continued, Ilara received a summons from an unexpected source. The Tarkelians, a reptilian species with a long-standing enmity towards the Chthonians, requested a private audience with her. They had been minor players on the galactic stage, but this incident had galvanized them into action. Later that evening, Ilara met with Ambassador Siler, a Tarkelian diplomat. In the shadowy confines of a secure room, Siler extended an offer. "Captain Miles, your actions have inspired many. The Tarkelians wish to form an alliance with humanity against the Chthonian dominance. Together we can reshape the galaxy." Ilara weighed the offer carefully. Aligning with the Tarkelians could indeed shift the balance of power, but it also risked turning a cold conflict with the Chthonians into a full-blown war. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Rexar the bounty hunter was making his own moves. He had assembled a diverse and deadly crew, including a cybernetic sharpshooter named Crix, and a mysterious figure known only as Shadow, adept in infiltration and espionage. Their target was clear: capture Ilara Miles for a substantial bounty declared in the underworld. The news of this bounty quickly infiltrated the highest levels of the UHC, prompting an immediate enhancement of Ilara's security detail. However, the threat extended beyond mere physical danger. It was a clear sign that the Chthonians were choosing subterfuge and proxy warriors over diplomatic or direct military retaliation. Back on Earth, as Ilara contemplated the Tarkelian offer, her thoughts were interrupted by an urgent message from Admiral Grant. Captain Ilara Miles spent the night wrestling with her thoughts, the silence of her quarters interrupted only by the distant hum of Terra Nova's nocturnal life. The Tarkelian offer was tempting, a chance to cement alliances against the Chthonians, but it came with the risk of immediate conflict, a war that humanity might not be ready to handle. Morning brought no clarity, but it did bring a flurry of activity. The UHC had called a press conference, and the world, or rather the galaxy, was watching. As Ilara stood behind the podium, the flashes of cameras and the murmur of the crowd felt surreal. She began her speech, carefully navigating the treacherous waters of public and interstellar diplomacy. "Ladies and gentlemen of Terra Nova and representatives of the galactic communities," Ilara began, her voice steady, "humanity stands at a crossroads. We seek peace and partnership with all species. However, we will not shrink from the challenge of defending our rights and standing up against oppression." Her words were measured, offering no direct acknowledgement of the Tarkelian proposal, yet hinting at a new stance for humanity. The crowd responded with a mixture of applause and anxious chatter. As the conference unfolded, far from the prying eyes of the media and the public, secret meetings and communications crisscrossed the galaxy. The Crethunians, monitoring the situation closely, were devising their countermeasures. Emperor Graluk had convened his top advisors and military commanders. We cannot allow this human defiance to inspire others. Prepare the fleets, but also let our shadows move forth. Let Rexar and his ilk do what they do best, Graluk commanded, his voice a rumble of contained fury. In the murky underworld of bounty hunters and mercenaries, Rexar was preparing his crew for the mission. We strike during her next public appearance. The chaos will cover our extraction, he briefed his team, pointing at a holographic layout of the upcoming UHC summit. Back on Terra Nova, Alara's day was far from over. After the public appearances, she met in secret with Ambassador Sylar and representatives from other minor species who had expressed interest in an alliance. The meeting took place in an undisclosed location, away from potential spies. Sylar was straightforward. Captain Miles, we do not expect your commitment immediately, but know this. Our coalition is ready to support humanity in achieving a balanced galactic presence. Together, we can prevent any one species from imposing their will unchecked. Alara listened intently, weighing each word. The decision she was about to make could either be a beacon of hope for many, or a signal fire that would ignite a galactic war. Meanwhile, Crix, the cybernetic sharpshooter, was hacking into the security systems of the UHC summit venue, a task made easier by the chaos surrounding Alara's newfound fame. Systems compromised. We are ready for insertion, Crix informed Rexar through a secured channel. As the night approached, Alara stood at her window, looking out at the city lights. Her mind was made up. She would agree to the alliance, but on her terms, ensuring that it would be a defensive pact rather than a provocation for war. Tomorrow, she would bring her proposal. The day after the tumultuous summit, Captain Alara Miles stood before a large window in the UHC military facility, gazing out at the serene vista that belied the storm of activity within. Terra Nova's leadership, along with representatives from allied species, had worked through the night, driven by a newfound urgency to formalize the Galactic Coalition for Peace. The attack at the summit, rather than weakening their resolve, had catalyzed the formation of the coalition with a swiftness that only imminent threat could inspire. In the secure conference room, the final touches were being put on the coalition's charter. Alara, along with Ambassador Sylar and others, reviewed each clause meticulously. They were creating not just a mutual defense pact, but a framework for economic support, cultural exchange, and collective governance. It was ambitious, designed to be a beacon of cooperation in a galaxy where mistrust had long been the norm. "The charter is ready for signing," announced a Tarkelian legal advisor, her voice cutting through the low murmur of conversations. The room fell silent as representatives from each member species stepped forward. The signing ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy, a public declaration of their united stand against aggression and domination. As Alara signed the document, she felt the weight of history guiding her hand. The galaxy was watching, and many who had felt isolated or oppressed now harbored a spark of hope. The coalition might be young and untested, but it represented a significant shift in galactic power dynamics. Meanwhile, in the darker corners of the galaxy, Rexar watched the broadcast with a calculating eye. The formation of the coalition meant that his usual tactics would need adjusting. The bounty on Alara's head remained, but he knew that capturing her now would be significantly more difficult, and potentially more rewarding. "Time to play the long game," he muttered to himself, already plotting his next moves. Back at the UHC military facility, the celebration was tempered by the knowledge of the challenges ahead. Alara addressed the assembly, her voice resonant and clear. "Today, we start a new chapter in our history. The road ahead will be fraught with challenges, but together, we are stronger. Let the Galactic Coalition for Peace be a testament to what unity can achieve against the forces of division and tyranny." As night fell, Alara allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. The events of the past few days had changed her life, and potentially the galaxy forever. She knew that the Crethunians and others who favored the old ways would not sit idly by while their power waned. The coalition would need to be vigilant, proactive, and above all, united. In the days that followed, the coalition's influence began to grow. Other species, inspired by the bold stand of the founding members, applied for membership. Trade agreements were signed, joint military exercises were planned, and cultural exchanges began, weaving a tapestry of interdependence that spanned solar systems. However, peace is often a delicate veneer, and the shadows of the galaxy harbored not just criminals like Rexar, but also dissenting factions and empires wary of the shifting power. Elara knew this peace was but the eye of the storm, and the true test of the coalition's strength lay in its ability to withstand the inevitable conflicts on the horizon. As the first year of the coalition drew to a close, reports of skirmishes on the border regions reached Elara's desk. She looked at them, not with fear, but with resolve. The Galactic Coalition for Peace was no